It is truly easy to get caught up in this contagious and maniacal world. And there is no doubt that there is a certain batch of stuff going on that can capture your focus and can turn you bitter, angry, and upset in a moment's notice. We're not meant for that. I'm reading a little bit from Jesus in John. If God be glorified in him, God shall also glorify him in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. Ye shall seek me. And I said unto the Jews, whither I go, you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another. As I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. So Jesus put it right there. He just plainly put it right there that love is the indication of those who are in a relationship with him. So if we have an absence of love, hate, anger, those are very indicative of a disalignment, a miscalculation, or a misunderstanding, or something has gone awry in the relationship, such that the man has departed from God and from that path of righteous love. So I want to read something that I've just written, because I think it really is at the crux of my upset regarding the last few months. I see this world, and this world has become truly something caustic. It's become something to not only to behold, but something to be cautiously aware of in understanding. And we need, and by we I mean first of all me. I don't walk around with a rat in my pocket. When I talk about we, I talk about we collectively, that I'm included in that we. And the reality is that this is the circumstance in which we find ourselves, and it is tough by any measure for us to rise above those challenges on a daily basis, unless we have a departure from that certain mentality that is, quote, worldly, that we have a departure leading us to some type of spirituality, some type of spiritual understanding, some type of removal from the circumstance, that we get an objective opinion in our own minds. And that is what I'm writing about today. And I hope that you appreciate this piece, because it really, to me, points out what we're dealing with in the world. And this piece is called, Is Anger Enough? Is anger enough? Is it an emotion built upon rational decision-making that began with an idea, then grew to discontent, and now is found as a natural progression towards resolution of our difficulties? Am I justified, righteous, sufficiently immersed in propriety that my anger is the appropriate measure and action dictated by the circumstance? Will this upset solve what must be solved? Will it convince those who sit upon the sidelines of the righteousness of my argument, such that they too will rise to conquer the day, or perhaps will demonstrate to them an emotional man, ill-equipped and insufficiently prepared to face the obstacles that remain untamed before us? This is what we need to understand. Should anger become cold and turn to a useful, gut-twisting feeling and the need for revenge? Is that a better, more precise emotion that is thought out, considered, and bitter, having cultured for a period of time, become more refined than anger? Is revenge, or getting back at the enemies that face each of us individually and this nation collectively, the paramount reasoning for hope of victory? Shall our conquest of those against us begin and end with the desire to see them writhe in pain and discomfort and suffering for their ills? Isn't that the true measure of victory and righteousness? Having seen your enemies suffer for their wrongdoing and taking the moment to rejoice in their painful end? Maybe it will be the trophy, the panacea, or perhaps even a cathartic moment of healing that is necessary in order to subside the pain of my wounds, which are on fire from the damage of past done. Or perhaps I should simply look upon them in arrogance, understanding that they have no concept of what we are trying to accomplish. Sovereignty, by any measure, is beyond their understanding. Is it possible that they may be considering my own position somehow intellectually or factually superior to their thinking, leaving them foolish for simple lack of comprehension? Maybe they lack my upbringing, my culture, my couture, my worldliness, and in that absence lack the capacity for sounding out even the words that I pronounce or that I would use to describe the prolonged efforts and intricate action steps necessary to achieve my grand plan for humanity. That's it. What began as anger and grew into an advanced sense of need for retribution and revenge has now come full circle to become justification for whatever I may perpetrate upon my enemies, because they are frankly just too dumb to understand that I'm trying to save them from their own stupidity. That's it. I am perhaps their savior, by providing them a solution for a problem they are incapable of seeing, setting them free out of my own brilliance. They don't get it. And because it makes no sense to try and sell gold to someone who wants rocks and dirt in trade, I will create a new world for them based upon my own superior comprehension. I will, of course, remain atop the mountain, that I will have full capacity to monitor their behavior and success in the valleys below, that I might step in an appropriate juncture to effect change, that they might avoid their own mistakes before occurrence. I will be benevolent and offer them work. It won't be easy, because it's hard work designed for their own betterment, to grow them into strong men and women, shape them and teach them the gratitude necessary for service in my graces. I will have elevated myself above the anger that caused me to crush their fathers and the revenge that made me show their wives and children cruelty. I will even have graduated beyond the desire to show them the way to intellectual freedom, that they might now be trapped forever in their own ignorance. Now I will show them the benevolence of a gracious king. Of course, everything belongs to me, and they will get what they need and sometimes more, but they will never get what they deserve, because they deserve my wrath. And I've grown beyond that. Now that I've been in charge for centuries and their children have grown into the suit that was prepared for their ancestors, I'm bored and ready for a change. There are so many cattle to be used, abused, sent, moved, traded, bartered, like so much agricultural dry goods. For fun, we addict them to whatever spice, drug, or food that we have aplenty, and then slowly remove it from them, demanding more and more for smaller and smaller quantity. We've effectively bought their descendants via death pledges or mortgages and debt that will never be paid, even to the fifth generation, effectively selling into the proud ownership of my grandchildren's children. Now there are too many, and they spoil the water, the air, use too much food, fuel, and require constant monitoring. We've become troubled with their presence, and so have collectively joined in a long-term plan for monitoring and maintaining their population through careful genetic, pharmaceutical, medical, food additive, and psychological manipulation to eventually sterilize certain gene pools that we have found specifically difficult, cumbersome, unhealthy, or problematic. We've determined programs and legal capacity to attack their youth, since they are so ignorant they will pay for it anyway, and pay for us to destroy the capacity of their own reproduction. We laughed at that for several months when we invented it, and then we decided to keep it to ourselves. No sense in upsetting the cattle. For decades now, we have been functionally operating a global masterpiece. We have placed the perfect personnel of noble birth, proper education, and stature into the positions of authority within their governing bodies. Yeah, they share the illusion that they are self-governing, but the changes we have made to their sovereign documents, the updates we have made to their courts, and the people we have positioned in order to sign backdoor deals that circumvent all real ownership and authority, we now stand upon the precipice of declaring global empire. We own the schools, so they cannot teach the youth the truth. We own the jobs, so we work them effectively with the desire to function to destroy their relationships at home, and we utilize the media to show them movies of why they are unhappy at home and need to look across the neighbor's fence for satisfaction. We have made them complacent, having removed their God from the schools, businesses, and halls of government, so that they have no peace and no power that comes from that relationship with a holy and righteous Creator. We own them. We own the corporations that own their families, their property, and their future, and have convinced them that their job is to hate everyone else for their dilemma, a useful emotion that causes the brain to cease thinking and become carnal. We have planned systematic departure from entire populations that will be reduced quickly by biological, chemical, and warfare means, always giving the appearance that we are joined with them at the hip in defense of this globe. Righteous defense. We now pity them, for they have no concept of what goes on in our world outside the snow globe in which they are imprisoned philosophically and intellectually. So we have instituted artificial intelligence data gathering and control programs by launching corporations again, paid for by American tax dollars, to eventually make them irrelevant, leaving them without a job, without hope, without reason to live, and then we will offer them the way out. We are racing towards autonomous machines capable of self-awareness in short order that will, when given an order to take out a segment of humanity, will be relentless in that dispatch. We've collectively determined in our superiority that artificial intelligence will monitor their actions, behaviors, cities, functions, transactions, and health, so that we may be freed of the trouble they have given us for millennia. Funneling them into cities will be an easy task with the promises of a better life, leisure, free education, money, and distribution from a benevolent government who has effectively made their hard work and toil established discipline by God, that they might simply relax and smell the roses. Yet those roses will be digital. At some point, the AI will determine the method by which they might best be dispatched permanently, that we might again have a pristine planet to ourselves. They and their anger have been made irrelevant by a new species that does not feel pain, anger, death, or fear. Artificial intelligence will provide the method to complete that which we have been incapable as mortal gods of fulfilling, the eradication of man and the rise of the evolved species of man to rule in utopian paradise. Let's hope they never do get angry. Look, there is hope, there is joy, there is understanding, there is peace, and there is provision. And unfortunately, it doesn't exist within our books. It does not exist within our mantras. It does not exist within some type of empty-headed meditation. We have been offered this peace and something that surpasses worldly understanding, and that offer has come from the Creator who gave us this sovereign nation in which to live free. And so I've been reflecting on the concepts of sovereignty and the gift of sovereignty, and how does one defend sovereignty? Does one defend sovereignty like the child that they were given? To that end, will you lay down everything for your country? And there have been men, and this week we have been reflective of those type of men and women who are willing to give it all for this nation that it might remain free. Do we share that commitment? Because that commitment is what is necessary toward the protection of something so precious, something that once it is gone, it may never be returned. Something like life, which is beautiful and precious and unique and must be protected and maintained. And I looked to my anger, and my anger got shown again to me today, and I realized when I wrote this piece that that anger is what sponsors all the actions that come after it. The revenge, the arrogance, the pride, the justification, the years and years and years of following an unrighteous path because of your original anger or envy that led you to want to take what someone else had or stop them from getting what you had. Envy or jealousy. When we look at these things are continually coming up over and over and over again because they are biblically sound teachings. Those things that sponsor that emotion without thought, that desire that needs to be gratified without the appropriate rational understanding of what the implications are or what the disastrous fall is that comes after that moment when we pursue that carnal craving. And so when I focus on anger, when I focus on my own anger, I must understand that my own anger must end here. Because if I pursue that anger even one instance, even 1 hour, even one day, I have set my course on the same path upon which our enemies reside. I will become them. And just as Jesus Christ said, we will be known as different by our love for one another. And that's why it is so relevant, and it is so unprevalent, and it is frankly frowned upon or looked upon as a weakness. Do you see Caleb as weak? I ask you. Am I an anomaly in this world? Am I something unique? I get castigated often because of my heart and my desire to love before I hate. Look, we're in, like it or not, we're firmly entrenched in these last days. If you don't like it, I am sorry. But the evidence, the prophecy, all the signs and indications lead to the fact that the Lord is soon coming again. And we need to understand what that means for us personally. That means there is a readiness program to which we are either volunteered or we are cashed out. I had a lady tell me today, 79 years old, and told me she's happy she's going to hell. How do you answer that? How do you answer that? I answered it with love. I said, I pray that that changes in your heart and that the Lord helps you find a way to where you're really meant to go, because no man was meant to go to hell. That was designed for Satan and his angels. We make a choice to turn down God's gift of everlasting life. And so I hope that your anger, your envy, your pride, whatever carnal emotion that leads you away from the Lord does not lead you past that moment when you might accept his gift of everlasting mercy and grace and find love in this world, find love and peace that surpasses the ridiculousness of the circumstances in which we currently find ourselves. So when you see yourself angry, folks, don't pursue it, because we don't want to be like them to beat them. It's impossible. That's a fallacy. It's just a fallacy. It's not the truth. You cannot defeat your enemy by becoming your enemy, because then why did you have any righteous position to begin with? I love you, and I thank you for visiting with me today and sharing this piece with you regarding is anger enough? And you'll find it never is. It's just like that desire to take advantage of the innocent. It's never enough. One puff is never enough. One drug is never enough. One high is never enough. One act of fornication is never enough. It's never enough. Love is enough, folks. Fill yourself up with those disciplines, with those supernatural ideals that surpass carnality. I love you, and I thank you. And look, I'm constantly failing, constantly. I constantly fall short of what I believe the Lord wants of me. But He loves me. And so He picks me up and dusts me off and says, hey, get back at it. That's love. I love you, and I praise the Lord for sending you into my life, and I thank you for this opportunity to share with you today. And I pray that those of you who have been pursuing anger or envy or retribution or revenge or jealousy, that you lay those things down, folks, because they never lead to good. Have an awesome day, and be richly blessed in the love that Jesus Christ showed us all. In His precious name I pray. Amen.